My name is Erin Hoover, and I am a faculty member at Tennessee Tech. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of English. I started writing poetry, I think, when I was in high school, and I just had never felt before, I was a high achiever in a lot of areas, but I never felt anything quite like I felt when I started writing poetry. I thought, here's something I really feel strongly about. It's a kind of writing that I felt, I could put into words a lot of the things I was thinking about and feeling, and I just got tremendous personal satisfaction from it. I didn't imagine that I would become a published poet or teach poetry at that stage, but that's just something that grew over time as I learned more and more about the craft of poetry and started writing and publishing. So I have two books. One is called Barn Burner. It was my dissertation from my PhD program in creative writing, and that came out in 2018. I won a Florida Book Award, and it was published by Elixir Press. My second book is called No Spare People, and that came out about a year ago in October 2023. It's published by Black Lawrence Press. So both of these books are full-length books of poetry. A full-length collection of poetry is usually around 70 or 80 pages, sometimes a little bit more. So I would say each book contains roughly 30 poems. So yeah, those are the poems I have out there as books. A lot of what I write about is, I'm from Pennsylvania and I grew up in a rural place. I write a lot about how I grew up. I write about current events. I mean, not just current events of our time, but some of the current events that were happening in the 70s and 80s and 90s up until today. No Spare People contains a lot of poetry about parenthood because before I wrote that book, I had a daughter, and so essentially I'm pulling from personal experience, but also trying to apply some of the things I'm thinking about to the world around me, or thinking about how those intersect. And that's what I say with bringing in some of the current events, including some of the disagreements and strife of the past few years. I've written some in that book about COVID as well, and kind of economic issues. So yeah, it's a combination of personal writing, but trying to trying to make it a little bigger than that. Typically, I'll have an issue that's troubling me, or maybe even it could be provoked by hearing someone say something on the news, or a snippet of conversation, or even just driving around. I'll suddenly have a thought and I'll think, that could be an interesting poem. I want to maybe explore that a little more. And so poetry can be a great place if you're wondering about something, if you're thinking about something, if you're someone who's very thoughtful and always trying to pull apart ideas and kind of figure out where you stand on certain things. Poetry can be a great place to just sort of set aside everything else you're doing and just do that. Just write a poem about whatever your subject is. I think writing poetry has provided a lot of clarity to me in my life. So I think at first I just talked about inspiration and the idea of being inspired, and but the other part of being a writer is actually sitting down and writing, and even doing that when you haven't had a big brainstorm of an idea. Maybe just trying to build the act of writing and also reading poetry, right, into your regular life. I think if you're going to be good at anything, you really need to spend a lot of time doing it. So, occasionally you may write a poem and it just comes out brilliantly and you don't have to do a lot of revision, but my experience is that typically I have to do a lot of revision. just kind of looking at the poem again, trying to make it better. I think in any kind of creative art, that's essential.